The $20,000 Rolex that feels like $200. Welcome to our channel, where I cut through the hype and tell you the real truth about luxury. From high-end watches to designer fashion to the cars and lifestyles that come with them, I give you the honest breakdown. No sugarcoating, no fanboy talk, just straight-up reviews and insights. If you've ever wondered whether that $20,000 Rolex is actually worth it, or if that $5,000 designer bag is really better than a $500 one, this is the channel for you. Alright, let's be real. Imagine saving up for years, or dropping $20,000 on a watch, expecting it to feel like the holy grail of craftsmanship. And then, you put it on your wrist, and your first reaction is, wait, this feels kinda light. This feels ordinary. That, my friends, is the harsh truth about this Rolex right here. It's the $20,000 watch that in the hand feels like a $200 piece. And today, I'm going to explain exactly why. Before the Rolex purists and fanboys come for me, let me say this. Rolex is a powerhouse brand. It has history, prestige, and a resale market that other brands would kill for. But when we strip away the marketing, the status, and the hype, when it's just you, the watch, and how it feels, there's a huge gap between perception and reality. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into in this video. Part 1. The first impression. When you hold a Rolex for the first time, especially a modern sports model like the Submariner, the Daytona, or even some Datejusts, you expect fireworks. You expect that immediate sense of luxury. But for many people, including myself, the first thought is, wait, that's it? See, Rolex watches are not massive, overbuilt tanks. They don't scream luxury in the way that, say, a gold Audemars Piguet or Richard Mille does. In fact, some people say a Seiko diver for $200 can actually feel more substantial in the hand. And honestly, they're not wrong. The truth is, Rolex has always prioritized balance, comfort, and usability over just bulk. That's why their watches often feel lighter than expected. But to the average person, that lightness can feel like cheapness. And that's the paradox. A $20,000 Rolex can sometimes give the same tactile sensation as the $200 mid-tier watch. The difference isn't obvious until you start looking deeper. Part 2. Breaking down the materials. Let's talk about materials. Rolex is famous for using oyster steel, their proprietary 904L stainless steel. Sounds fancy, right? And yes, it is a tougher, more corrosion-resistant steel than the standard 316L used by many brands. But here's the kicker. To the touch, to the average hand, steel is steel. If I blindfold you and hand you a $200 Seiko made from 316L stainless steel and then a Rolex oyster steel case, most people wouldn't notice the difference. It's polished beautifully, yes. It's durable, yes. But in terms of how it feels in your hand, it's not $20,000 different. The bracelet is another talking point. Rolex bracelets are well-engineered, solid links, smooth finishing, the famous oyster and jubilee styles. But again, if you've ever worn a high-end micro brand or even a luxury tier Seiko, you'll know that solid stainless bracelets don't automatically scream luxury. It's refined, but not magical. Part 3. The weight factor. Weight is a big part of perceived value. When you pick up a heavy object, your brain instantly assigns value to it. That's why luxury pens, knives, or even phones often have that extra heft. Rolex, surprisingly, not always. Sports models like the Submariner or Explorer are built for everyday wear. They're designed to disappear on your wrist so you can swim, hike, or even climb Everest with them. That practicality makes them feel lighter than expected. Now, put that next to a $200 Orient Diver or an Invicta, which are both chunkier and heavier, and suddenly you might think, wait, this cheaper watch feels more solid. And that's the mental trap many fall into when comparing Rolex to cheaper alternatives. Part 4. Comparing to $200 watches. Let's put this into perspective. For $200, you can buy a Seiko 5, an Orient Mako, or a micro-brand dive watch with automatic movement, stainless steel case, sapphire crystal, solid link bracelet. Sound familiar? That's basically Rolex's recipe too. So on paper and in feel, the gap doesn't look that wide. But here's the catch. Rolex isn't just about specs, it's about execution. The finishing on the case, the tolerances in the bracelet, the movement reliability, these are things you don't always notice immediately, but reveal themselves over time. The problem is, most people expect to feel that difference right away, and they don't, which is why they walk away thinking, wow, this $20,000 watch feels like $200. Part 5. What you're actually paying for. So if it doesn't feel like $20,000 in the hand, where does the money go? You're paying for 3 things: heritage and history. Rolex has over a century of legacy. Explorers wore them to Everest, divers took them to the Mariana Trench, and countless icons, actors, athletes, presidents have worn them. That history adds weight that no $200 watch can match. Engineering and reliability. Rolex movements are robust, reliable, and serviceable for decades. The 3235 or 4130 calibers are precise workhorses that keep running when many cheaper watches break down. Resale and value retention. This is huge. A Rolex bought today for $20,000 might actually sell for more in 5 or 10 years. A $200 watch? The second you buy it, it's worth maybe $50 used. So while your hand might not feel $20,000 worth of luxury, your bank account and your social status sure will. Part 6. The psychology of luxury. And here's where it gets interesting. Luxury isn't always about the product itself. It's about perception. Rolex has mastered the psychology of scarcity and desire. Long waiting lists, limited releases, the idea that not everyone can just walk into a store and buy one. That exclusivity makes you want it more. And when you finally own it, it's less about how it feels and more about what it says about you. That's the power of the crown. The feeling on your wrist may be $200, but the statement you're making, that's priceless. That's why people keep buying Rolex, and that's why the brand will always dominate the conversation. So let me flip the question back to you. Would you spend $20,000 on a watch that feels like $200, knowing it carries legacy, value, and status? Or would you rather stick to a solid $200 piece that gives you almost the same feel without the price tag? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get a real conversation going about what luxury really means. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this honest breakdown, subscribe for more no BS reviews, and I'll see you in the next video.